Hi everyone, on this episode of the Stay Hungry podcast, Andy and I are going to be talking about motivation versus purpose.
Why are you drinking that filth, Joel?
I haven't had an energy drink since I was at university. And my mother-in-law brought me this today because she thought it would make me feel better. And just for the listeners, I've got a pink can of Monster. Do you know what it tastes like? Pink can of shit.
Other shit energy drinks are available.
Yeah.
So I used to do a few energy drinks, I suppose. But when I did the fan dance, Ollie Ollerton did a massive rant about, because everyone's saying about nutrition, how do I prepare, and massive rant about energy drinks, because he says you get the big hit, but then he says you get a much bigger crash than like after caffeine, and I've never touched one since.
Yeah, you used to love a Diet Red Bull, didn't you?
Oh yeah. Or what's the cheap one that the garages do, Blue Bear or something?
No, I don't
like
know. Yeah.
tastes exactly the same, but like costs 30p, so it can't be that good for you, can it? Do you feel perkier?
Not really. I'm not the perkiest people anyway.
It's like a new person after his 5 cans of Monster.
Bloody hell, Joel's perked up.
Like that guy interviewing, he walks in with a can of Monster. It's like, this isn't a good start.
That's something else, isn't it? If we talked about that on the podcast, someone who
Probably
basically
not.
showed up in their pyjamas for an interview, carrying a can of Monster, and the sceptical side of me would say he just showed up for his interview so he could collect his dole money. Awful thing to say, but if I drive to the co-op on the business park at lunchtime, all the college kids walk into the co-op will be in pyjamas or joggers and drinking cans of energy drinks. It's not uncommon.
Yeah. And the fact is, he could have walked in with like a cappuccino, and I would have had, I know, a different first impression. But then he did say he'd kicked his Monster addiction, and I said, but you've got a can of Monster in your hand. He says, oh yes, I used to have like 12 cans a day. I was like, well,
How could you afford that?
maybe that was why he was looking for another job, one that paid better.
And like, what would his teeth be like?
He didn't smile that much really, so overall he didn't get the job.
Like, I don't have the best teeth, but fuck it up. Anyway, point being, and that
Can we talk about Monster?
well, it's irrelevant. It's a relevant point. Annie was interviewing me earlier for a live Q&A, and I went off on one about motivation because I'm not a big believer in society's version of motivation. I said, I don't wake up every morning, Annie, and bounce out of bed excited to conquer the world of marketing. So I have a sense of purpose to deliver for my clients and to deliver on my vision, and so therefore I do it. It's a non-negotiable. But some days I'm not motivated at all. I just get on with it. And I think there's so many people out there that are waiting for that like burst of motivation. That like, I think they think that because one Christmas 300 years ago they woke up and they were incredibly excited for the day, that they should wake up feeling like that every day, and it's just not realistic. It's just not how the world works.
I suppose I only wake up with Emma, but I think there probably are people out there who wake up every morning raring to go, but I'd say they're very few and far between.
But are they motivated in the sense that they've got this like rush of energy, or are they full of purpose and so they kind of create it for themselves? Because like I can see the exact opposite with me. I still haven't got enough purpose about going to the gym, so I don't necessarily stick to it. But there are people out there that do.
Yeah, I mean,
Like Goggins doesn't love running 50 miles every day or whatever, but he does it.
he does 12 miles a day minimum. I was watching him, I think, on the Chris Williams podcast, and I was like, fucking
Do
hell.
you believe him?
Yeah, I think so.
Because he carries quite a bit of muscle.
He's very lean.
Not like Mo Farah.
No.
He's carrying some muscle. I'm not sure you could if you were running that far every day.
He does that. He does his 2 hours of breathing and stretching a day.
Yeah.
He does like an hour something else. So Chris, I wish I could remember his name. The host, anyway, was like,
The British guy.
When do you fucking do anything else? Yeah, the one who's on Love Island.
Yeah.
I'm
He's
listening.
Good. He's good podcast.
Yeah, I'm listening to his podcast with Peter Attia at the moment. It's really good, all about longevity. And you imagine, like, he wakes up every morning at 3, probably raring to go. But for me, the children are a big differentiator for a lot of stuff in my life, because they're a big motivator for me to go to the gym, for me to run, for me to cycle. And part of that is maybe like vanity, to be honest, because I've seen the status of the dads at school, and I don't want to be that dad. They're a motive.
To be in the Dilf League.
Yeah, basically, yeah.
Like, knowing what your girls say, I know that's actually a thing.
And I want to be. I've got to get up and walk the dogs as you do, and if I am feeling a bit meh or a bit down, by the time I've done my dog walk, I'm ready to attack the day again.
Yeah.
But whether that's motivation, whether that's
but you're building your own motivation then, right?
Well, no one else is going to do it.
But I think a lot of people wake up expecting divinity to have blessed them with
Heroes and
motivation.
victims. I think a lot of people now are reading a lot about motivation and about purpose and about energy, and they're reading and they're listening to podcasts, they're watching YouTubes about motivation, and they're spending so fucking long getting ready. They never actually do it. Right, okay, what have you actually done then to become more purposeful?
See, like you
well, nothing, but I am listening to this great new podcast about purposefulness, and it's like, well, but that's you've been talking about being more
the
driven
new
for a year
networking,
now.
Isn't it? We'll go into networking environments now, and people will boast to us about what podcast or book they've been listening to / reading. All right, yeah, but what have you actually done?
Well, launching. Who was I talking to last week? Maybe it was when I was interviewing George. Talk about launching a podcast. Every fucking marketer wants to launch a podcast. I said, okay, well, why don't you just launch one? Oh, well, no, I line my ducks up in a row and I've got to... Fuck the ducks. You can never line ducks up in a bloody row. Just fucking do it. Oh, yes, but, you've got a roadcaster. You go, do you know how Joe and I started a podcast? With a fucking phone.
We did about 50 episodes on a phone.
There's no excuse now.
I
And
listened to one the other day.
we uploaded it to anchor.fm, which was free and might still be now. That's what we did. Oh, yes, but, we've got... No, it's just fucking excuses, which, to be honest, most of our podcasts can probably boil down to lack of accountability, not clear enough why, and a lack of action.
That's my problem with motivation, is it lacks accountability. I struggle with the idea of waiting for motivation. Oh, I don't feel motivated, so I'll do something else. Fuck that. That's not. Whereas, like, if I go back to my reason, my why, my purpose, and go like, well, actually, like for example, real short-term in my way, I think. Hannah wants to go to Borneo next year. I'd like to go to Borneo next year. See the orangutans, go see orangutan group.
Fuck me, is that the only place where orangutans are or something? That's what everyone seems to have to go away to
Sumatra or
Borneo.
Borneo, yeah.
Really?
Yeah,
Chester Zoo.
brilliant.
No, seriously though, do any zoos have orangutans?
Chester.
Oh, I was joking about Chester. Is it really?
Yeah.
Oh, okay, interesting. So orangutans aren't born in Africa or anything, or?
No, you can only get them in Sumatra and Borneo in Indonesia.
I mean, you would have thought, like in the 1800s, some explorers would have like taken a load to like pretty much every country in the world. Now there are these colonies of orangutans everywhere.
I just don't think they survive because they eat certain plants and
Really?
certain trees. That's why the palm oil industry is so dangerous to them.
That's like so Pablo Escobar. What's the story with him? And he was a hippopotamus.
Yeah, so there's a colony of hippos in...
There's fucking
Colombia.
hundreds of them.
Yeah.
That'd be well weird, wouldn't it, if you were walking through Colombia and came across a hippo?
Which like was it? Were you walking through Argentina and there's apparently some village where they speak Welsh or something?
Yeah,
And it's
yeah,
like
yeah.
mad. So right, okay. So Hannah wants to go to Borneo.
Yeah.
Rather than Chester, fair enough.
Like both of us do. Well, both of our bucket lists to go do the orangutan rehab centre and then go into the jungle and see orangutans. Now our bucket list is very much adventure based. I'm not saying that's right or wrong. Some people's is money based, some people's is relax on a beach, some people's is care for their family, whatever. But when I sit here and I'm like, oh, I can't be bothered making those sales calls today, for example, and then I'm like, but that means I'm one step further away from being able to go to Borneo, that lights me up, that sparks me. Or in your case it might be, well, I've got the kids' school fees to pay, or I'd like to take the kids to Dubai before they're too old to enjoy going with their family, or whatever it might be. If I sit there and go, Han, sorry, Borneo's on hold until I get some motivation, that doesn't cut it, does it? Like, oh, I wasn't feeling particularly motivated today, so I've delayed Borneo by a week, Han. And every time that happens, I'm going to delay Borneo by a week. Or it could be like buying your dream house or renovating extension or whatever, whatever ticks your boxes. I can't afford to wait for motivation to catch up with me. I've got too much shit that I'd like to achieve. So I need a way to get myself going.
So what is the way? What is your way?
How do I get myself going?
And that someone else might be able to do if they're struggling with
So
this.
I have a massive sense of purpose. Massive sense of purpose. I genuinely think that with my skill set and the things that I've learned and the abilities that I have a duty to help other people grow their businesses and succeed.
Okay.
And if I'm not doing that, I'm letting myself and the world down. Now that might sound like massively egotistical, but I don't mean it in an egotistical sense. I mean it in the alternative. The alternative for me is to have no sense of purpose, and no sense of purpose is a dangerous place for me. So have purpose.
And do you think some people might struggle with purpose because, we talk about red and green tasks, we talk about it a lot. Someone might want to have to do something to move forward, but ultimately they don't like doing it. So quickly, a red task is something you've done that you hated doing or it didn't make you money, or both. A green task, ideally, is something you love doing and it made you money. So,
or moved you towards.
Or moved
your
you
goal.
forward. So you think that's a challenge that some people, the stuff they've got to do, they just, because you love helping people, right?
Yeah.
Our purpose is to help here at Codebreak, to help people and have fun. Do you think there's people out there who, I don't know, they work at a job they hate and basically they just, to get to where they want, they've just got to do shit that just doesn't inspire them, doesn't light them up, and they basically won't have any fun doing it?
Because life's too short not to have fun, surely.
No, I do think there is an element in everything that the end justifies the means. So sometimes you do have to suck it up. That's just part of life. Like,
What's your nan say? Was it your nan or your auntie? What was that phrase she said to you as a teenager?
Send them all home.
Send them back to where they came from.
Not sure that was what you meant.
Oh, my mother-in-law, fucking hell, she's come up with some, I can't even repeat them on this podcast.
Watching the coronation.
Just some doozies, and my mother-in-law has had some quite opinions about the range of contestants on MasterChef. That's I know.
If that's all you've got to worry about in life, you're doing alright.
Fucking hell, I totally forgot.
What does my nan say?
So no, your nan or some elderly relative years ago when you were a teenager, I think, said something to you that stuck with you all this time about life's not supposed to be fun or happy, or life's supposed to be hard. Oh fuck, something like that.
I don't know, it sounds like something most of my family will say.
Life's not supposed to be easy, is it, Joel? You turned around to me and said at some point last year that I was like, fucking hell, that's a lot to carry. Almost like something like really, I was going to say really northern, but
They're not northern, but yeah, I know what you mean. Well, yeah, I think, and I agree, I don't think you should be a martyr to your cause. I think that's bollocks. Because life's too short, you need to enjoy the journey. But I'm not you and I have both done shit we didn't want to do to get to the stage where we didn't have to do that anymore. Sometimes you just have to put the reps in. But on the other hand, if you truly believe in your vision strongly enough, there are things you would do to invest in that vision. So that might be if you hate maths, if you hate all the receipts and bookkeeping and maths in your business, and you know that by getting a bookkeeper that will free you up to generate more revenue or more leads or whatever it might be in your business, you should do it.
we talk a lot about that, and I think some people, especially startup businesses, which isn't our area of expertise. Obviously, we focus on six-figure businesses, or rather, six-figure businesses. We're stuck between 6 and 7 figures, because that's a fucking painful point. But startup business, when you have to do everything yourself, and sometimes that's a hard mindset to get out of. You retain that control, even the shit you don't want to do. You say, well, okay, you keep moaning about the bookkeeping, you're shit at bookkeeping, it takes you hours, fucking outsource it to a bookkeeper who can do it for, I don't know, 10 quid an hour and free you up to do the stuff you do. Oh no, I can't let go of that. I don't want some stranger looking at my book. Well,
fuck off then.
What can you do?
And I've been that person.
Can't fucking moan.
Been that person, but you can't operate like that. That is not like operator mentality. Like that's quite a sort of thrown about word at the moment. Like, he's an operator, she's an operator. People who are like, and if you're being the best version of yourself, is the best version of you someone who's going through a shoebox full of receipts and plugging it into QuickBooks?
I really would struggle to get motivated and G up about that.
And is the best version of you happy to see you doing that? Because if they are, something's wrong. Where like, and it is hard because it does take an element of confidence to go from, shit, I can make more money doing something else than it's going to cost me to do that task, that red task. But until you get yourself into that mindset and can frequently switch that mindset on, you won't grow like you want to. And it took me longer than it should. Probably 5 or 6 years before I really came round to the idea of there's just loads of shit I shouldn't be doing and I need to stop it. And like we have the team will come in sometimes and be like, oh, we need this plugin for this website, and it will mean that we can do this, this, and this. I'm like, how much time is that going to save you? About 3 days. Okay, cool, go for it. Oh, but it's £49.
Right.
And I'm like, are you fucking joking? 3 days is worth £6 to this business, and you're thinking of in terms of pounds and pennies, like, and that. But I have to check myself on that behaviour too. Everybody does. Like, I quite like washing my car. It's therapeutic.
No, we talk about that a lot, don't we?
It's therapeutic. And sometimes when you're in a bad space, that is the best use of your time. But if you're not in a bad space and you've got shit to do, should you really be washing your car, or should you pay someone else 20 quid to do it and you crack on?
I've got the best of both worlds now. I get my car washed and don't have to pay them.
You do have to pay.
Well, I suppose so, yeah. An iPhone 14 is
Far
not
more,
cheap.
I was going to say it's far more expensive than.
I know, some of my friends are like, your kids have got iPhone 14s. I'm like, yeah, but we get the cars washed and it's a peaceful life. But yeah, absolutely, you know, if, well, I'm not the best when it comes to manual labour, I know that, but when it comes to one-off tasks I can cope with, but it took me a long time to realise if you are repeatedly doing shit that you hate, like you rightly said, everyone's got to eat shit as a business owner every day, no matter. I bet Richard Branson has to eat shit, probably a lot less than us mere mortals, but if you are repeatedly doing something that you hate doing, then there will be a better alternative. And I struggle. I remember there was this really boring report I had to do every month for a client a long time ago. Really, really boring report. Loads of numbers. You loved it. And every month you'd say to me, why don't you get Jenny to do it? And I know why. It's because the pain of having to sit down and train up how to do it, and the nuances behind it, and it's different for this and that. And it must have taken me about 2.5 years to finally get to empower and to train her to do it. And of course, I thought that was wonderful.
I
was
don't know,
like,
I've got
why did I
exactly
do
that
that
situation with
years
some
ago?
software.
At the moment, I mean, you had a chat earlier about, oh, would it be too much to get the team to learn it? Of course it wouldn't. Like, but I allowed myself in that moment of like entrepreneurial control and self-doubt and all those weird shitty things that come in to be like, yeah, it's just too much for the team. And it's bollocks. Like, there's teams that have built rockets that have gone to the moon. I'm sure our team can cope with a spreadsheet.
Yeah. With great power comes great responsibility.
Yeah, so
And we're lucky with our team because let's face it, a lot of people, they want the power, they don't want the responsibility.
that's common as well. That's very common.
That's
It's rife.
that's massive, and maybe some of that has to do with motivation and purpose as well. It's like, if you want the growth, then you've got to take responsibility, and it's hard to feel G'd up if your growth is in the hands of someone else.
Yeah.
You know, you have to make the big decisions. You might have to make big decisions quickly. If you can't fucking go to the toilet without having to sense check it with 3 other people, maybe being an entrepreneur isn't for you.
So I talked about this on my socials the other day. I don't know if I was feeling inspired or having a fever dream, but a lot of entrepreneurial decision making, entrepreneurial behaviour, being a boss, being a CEO, is energy management. And yeah, you can do all of these tasks. Chances are, as the CEO or boss of a owner-managed business, you can have a good stab at every task in that business, one way or another. Doesn't mean you should. And it's not just because you shouldn't be laden with red tasks, or because other people couldn't do it as well as you. It's also because when the shit hits the fan, which can happen on a daily basis in entrepreneurship, you need to have the capacity and the energy to deal with it. And if you've been sat there going through a shoebox, scanning receipts into QuickBooks, and then suddenly it's like, fuck, 6 of our websites have gone down, and 2 of our clients are on the phone and they want thousands of pounds of compensation, and you're in the mindset of someone that's scanning receipts from Amazon, that ain't good. You're putting your business at risk, and that's where purpose and motivation really come into play, because you might be very motivated to do that admin, but your purpose should be screaming at you that it's the wrong thing to do.
So what are the kind of sacrifices involved here? We've always talked about, you got to sacrifice blame. You can't just be saying it's Brexit's fault, it's his fault, it's her fault, it's bloody Ukraine, it's COVID, whatever. Because like you say, some challenges...
Although if you ask a car repair company, it's all of those.
Don't ask for a Tesla update.
It's not coming.
Fucking hell.
That's the update. Yeah.
No date.
No date. 8 months now for the listeners.
Shit. Can you at least upgrade the Skoda? Or you just stuck with
I'm kind of like
it? Used to it.
driving it with pride now, yeah.
Bloody hell. Wonder what would happen if you just stopped paying your Tesla money.
Well, I'm wondering if I should get to the point where I introduce the insurance to the lease company and be like, this is your fucking problem, I'm out.
Yeah, absolutely. Madness, isn't it? So, sacrifices.
Yeah.
You want to pursue a purpose-driven career.
Yeah.
What are some of the sacrifices you may encounter and have to overcome?
Time with family, big one.
Sounds like a dream.
Brilliant.
Let's time with them, look. Sign me up.
Massive on time with family. Time with so-called friends.
So-called friends.
Yeah, because I think, same with family really, so-called family, is that the people that really matter you should make non-negotiable time for, but there'll be an awful lot of people that you realise you can no longer make time for. I had a chat with my brother at the weekend actually. It's like, oh, who are you knocking around with now? And he listed off all the people that were no longer in his life. And I was like, well, it's the same for me. It's not unusual. Like, don't get wound up about it. Like, people move on, people have shit to do, people have other priorities, and you should too. It's okay. I think one of the things you need to get used to, which is hard, is upsetting people. And you won't be intentionally upsetting them, and you're not doing anything malicious. But because you're not able to give them the same amount of time of day as you did before, they naturally get their nose put out of joint. So when it's that, like, oh, you haven't been very lively in the group chat, for a basic example. So yeah, well, I'm a bit fucking busy trying to run a company. Or you haven't, you didn't come to the pub this Friday. It's like, oh yeah, well, I got caught up at the office and then decided I should go and see my wife or husband or whatever. Those are the kind of things, when you're purpose driven, those are the kind of things that suffer. I was thinking about some of my school friends that were really good to me through COVID, over COVID obviously, but I was thinking about it over the weekend. And we would like play Call of Duty on an evening and chat online to keep each other going, because, you know, a bit miserable and isolated at times. Those guys are still playing Call of Duty and chatting most evenings. But because
Most evenings?
Yeah. But because I...
Don't they finish the game at some point? Doesn't it end?
No. It's not old. Not that old.
What Call of Duty just goes on and on?
It's just online. You kill each other. It's team deathmatch. Battle Royale.
So what about the days where you play like Metal Gear Solid and the end point is you kill the big baddie, you've completed the game, right, brilliant.
Yeah, but massively multiplayer online games don't work like that.
Oh, right, okay.
So anyway...
Okay, that sounds like a right time drain.
Yeah, so the point being, that's their way of relaxing, that's their way of socialising.
They have wives? Or
Wives and children, yeah.
Fucking hell.
That's their way of relaxing, that's their way of socialising. And I made an active choice after COVID that I can't do that too often. It's too distracting and it will pull me away from my purpose. I would say I'm not in the gang anymore because of that.
maybe you probably got a better marriage for it and they might not have.
maybe I can't make assumptions, but
Bloody hell.
but that's the sacrifice you make, right? Is that it's like, well, your purpose, like, and I'm not saying they're wrong, but their purpose could be to socialise with their mates at least 4 times a week on the on the battlefield. That's not mine. So my sacrifice is that some of those people might not want to be friends with me anymore. And you have to be all right with that. And the whole society probably screams at you that that's not okay, because we're all meant to be mates and yada yada, and WhatsApp chats and Facebook groups and yada yada yada.
I read somewhere that the average bloke in his 50s has 2 friends.
Who's your what?
I would know. I would know. I'm 29, Joel. But I was thinking, because back in the day, believe it or not, when I was like a student or working in London, any night of the week I could look in my phone, my address book, and I'd have dozens of people I could call, meet up for a beer. Chances are, there were pubs around the West End that I could walk into and I would know
2 or 3
and
people
I
in
would
there.
know people there. But those days are long. I was quite directionless, I suppose. Had a good job, but I was never really career minded. I just like having a laugh, which is fine. And some of my friends are still doing that now. But well, I say friends, they're people I'm connected to on Facebook, but they're not friends because we just haven't got that big thing in common. When you're with a bunch of friends who love, say, going out, drinking, dancing, having a good time, that is a massive commonality. You take that away, because I'm now married with kids and running a business. Yeah, I don't want to be in a club at 2 in the morning.
I've got a close mate who's quite recently had a kid, and he's like, "Oh, don't worry, I won't be like everyone else. When the kid comes along, I'll still be around." I haven't seen him. I haven't seen it.
Theory. That's a wonderful, wonderful thing.
I don't begrudge him it. His priority should be that kid. He chose to have it. That's like, but it's
Priorities change, purpose changes. It makes me laugh when we were doing NCT classes before Maddie came along, like antenatal classes. There was a couple there, and the wife in this couple was like, "When my kid comes along, it's not going to change anything in my life." And me and Emma like sniggered a little bit. I think she heard us. It's like these people who enter the lottery and say, "If I win the lottery, my life's not going to change." It's like, well, why the fuck are you doing it then? Why the fuck are you having a kid then? And yes, unfortunately, when the kid came along, and fun enough, babies don't do what they're told, so they don't understand. Her life became very different, as did everyone's lives as a new parent. But the people that knew that was coming were okay with it. This woman really struggled because she thought her life was going to stay the same.
much like I can't. I mean, I can have a stab at it, but I can't comprehend what being a parent is like. Not really, because I'm not a
Don't
parent.
enjoy having one in dream, Joel, don't do it.
But people who've never had a business can't comprehend what it's like to have a business. They just can't. And like, I can't really comprehend now what it would be like to be employed. Like, my brain doesn't fire like that. And
Hard.
when you really follow in purpose, and purpose is also what makes you your living, that's quite motivating. Like but I think it's hard for people who have what they believe is their purpose, but they haven't monetized it. So it comes with financial instability. So
Ikigai.
yeah, so it's that, like, I want to make the world a better place, but I'm not willing to fully invest in that for whatever reason. Maybe not willing is probably a bit harsh. Not able to fully invest in that. Therefore, I have to work a 9 to 5 to fund my passion, and that is tricky. That is because the motivation to do the 9 to 5 then is harder because there's 2 layers, and like some people, that must be brutal. Where it's like, oh, I don't know, I feel really passionate about the sea eagles off the coast of Scotland. And so there's no jobs in protecting sea eagles off the coast of Scotland, so I work in Tesco 9 to 5, and every weekend I drive up to Scotland and check their nests. Like that's another level again, isn't it, of like people who are like willing to sacrifice. And well, my wife's a bit like that. She'll go and count birds every bloody weekend for no money, and I'm just like, wow.
Yeah, it's so. God, it's hard. I know so many fucking patronising parents who, obviously, as a parent, think they're the best parents in the world. But anything that detracts me from spending time with Emma and the kids, or helping people through Codebreak and getting financially rewarded for doing so, it makes my decision a lot easier.
Yeah.
Which means some of the work maybe I used to do that was more charitable, not the what Hannah's doing charitable, you know what I mean, going and doing, you know, ringing birds or bloody helping on whatever I mean, that has suffered in my life because
Serve your purpose.
yeah, exactly, which is really weird. It's like, right, I can do this, but it's going to take me away from Emma and the kids, so should I do it or not? And for me that has to be a big decision. Even like, you know, so we're part of an awesome mastermind and it involves basically 2 days away, 1 night away. And of course I do it, and I do it, I love it, I love meeting up with people, but it's still something I have to take into account that
Every couple of months, you're aware.
I'm leaving Emma and the girls, and I try not to sound sexist, I don't like leaving them in the house on their own, I like to be there. But it does make saying no easier, and you talked about that earlier. Some people, they say yes too often, and they struggle getting any close to their goals. Well, when you know your purpose, when you know your values, it makes it a lot easier what to say no and yes to, because does what I'm being asked to do, or does this person who wants my time, do they align with my purpose and values? And if the answer is no, don't fucking do it then. So, oh, can I just pick your brains? No. Can I have a meeting about this? Qualify them? No, they haven't qualified. No. Whereas, you know, before the old days, fuck me, I'd drive 50 miles to go and see someone who might want a bit of marketing doing.
Yeah.
And that's totally my fault. and my
I'd argue
responsibility.
now that you lacked purpose then.
Yeah.
That you were like, oh, this is a good thing, it'll grow the business. And that was as far as the thought went.
Yeah.
I did the same, so...
Mad now when you think about, you know, we know we're a lot older and wiser now, but time really is the currency of life, and that, the 2 hours driving, the meeting time, the time, obviously sending a proposal, pop it on an email and all that bollocks. Okay, well that's 5 hours I could have spent, frankly, with my children. It's 5 hours I could have spent better helping someone who's already paying me money. It's 5 hours I could have spent better qualifying a prospect. Or it's 5 hours I could have spent on my arse watching telly with my girls.
Which is time well spent in your version of purpose, right?
Absolutely. And one of my things this year, like resolutions, whatever you want to call it, is saying no more often.
That's on your list every year.
I'm going to fucking do it this year, though. I'm going to do it this year.
You say no to me all the time. How many?
Yeah, I can do that.
So how do you what sort of tips have you got for staying motivated and overcoming some of the setbacks people might have on their growth journey?
So I have setbacks every day, and I expect them, and that's a massive mindset shift for most people. To be like, expect to get punched in the face every day, and when you expect it, it doesn't hurt as much. And that might sound a bit morbid, but
That's probably why we don't get pissed off anymore when suppliers don't do what they said they would, because that.
yeah, clients
He's
don't
not been turned down, of course he didn't.
live up to what they said they were. Staff will let you down. I mean, our guys are really good, but
Team.
whatever. I'll drop a clanger. Like, setbacks happen all the time, but the big one for me, setbacks used to really drain me of my energy. They used to like make me feel shit, and I'd doubt myself, and oh, for fuck's sake, this is such a slog. Oh, wouldn't it be easy to get a 9 to 5? All the fucking dark thoughts start coming in, and now I'm like, okay, so what have I learned from that? And that's about as far as I let that trail go. Right, that was tough. What have I learned? And it's just been life-changing to be like, right, expect setbacks. That's normal. And then
How would you explain sort of expect setbacks, but without being negative, should we say, pessimistic?
Okay.
Or is a healthy dose of pessimism a good thing?
so I think I used to be very pessimistic, so I just expect the worst. And that's not the same as expect. Now I expect a good outcome, but with some challenges along the way, and it is different. There is a minor difference. So someone who's preparing to climb Everest, if they didn't expect setbacks, they wouldn't bother taking oxygen tanks with them. That's fucking mental. So they take all the gear for bad weather, they take extra oxygen tanks, they take a spare tent cover or what. I don't know what you take to Everest, but
If you watch that documentary,
you see my point. Not that one. No.
the clean living
Yeah.
company guy. Spencer Matthews.
Yeah.
Amazing.
But those people expect setbacks. They go into a challenge with their eyes open. The overly optimistic people would be like, I'm going to go up there barefoot and everything's going to be fine. That's insane. And the overly pessimistic people would be like, I'm not even going to go out there because I know I'll die. I think that kind of dose of realism has actually really changed my life for the better, as opposed to me like feeling like I'm grinding through pessimism and forcing myself to do something. Now I'm like weirdly looking forward to some of the challenges that get thrown at me. Like I'm going to the States on Thursday. I don't know if I mentioned. I'm going on my own, and for the first 6 days I won't know a soul. And I like one of the things that I genuinely really struggle with is sparking up conversation with people I don't know. That is going to be a challenge, but it's a challenge I've got to overcome. And I'm quite looking forward to
Why?
it. Why have I got to overcome
Why is it
it?
a challenge you've got to overcome? Because you're clear on what you want from it?
Yeah, so I undoubtedly want to network and meet new people, and I'm working on my personal brand like mad. Want to get my name out there more and more and more and more. Can't do that if you don't speak to people. But speaking to people's hard. Even people like us who do podcasts and stand on stage and write books. Actually speaking to people and being interested and engaged and listening to what they have to say and absorbing it and then asking them another question is fucking hard.
How will you know who to speak to and who not to? Who to carry on speaking to and who not to?
Who's the best looking and who's going to get me the most chips for the poker table?
Write that down. Because you talked about
So-
saying no and saying yes, right? There are some
Yeah.
people.
There's different things with this. So anyone that's serving you, taxi driver, hotel receptionist, like
Master.
yeah, I think a good skill is to find out their first name and address them by it and be grateful and show gratitude, and they're people worth talking to because they know everyone else. So it's the people that connect everyone that are the ones worth getting in with. So taxi drivers are a really good example of that, and hotel receptionists, and the person in charge of the blackjack table or whatever it might be. The connectors in life are really good. The ones that are a drain on you quite quickly, you'll recognise them straight away because they'll either say something negative in the first couple of sentences, or they'll ask something of you before they've earned the right to.
I do find it funny at events, you always meet someone who moans about how shit the event is.
Yeah, within 2 sentences of speaking to you, or they'll moan about how busy they are. For me, they're 2 alarm bells, early doors, where they'll ask you how business is. You'll give a modest answer like, very British. Oh, I'm ticking along, thank you. And then how about you? Yeah, really fucking busy. Oh, fuck off. Like, just like, you're meant to be busy.
Yeah.
Come up with a better answer. So they're the people I avoid. Now I'm going to VCon in America, which is a Web3 conference, and if you don't know that world, it's very negative at the moment because stocks and shares and crypto and NFTs are in a bear market and people are whingy. But all of those people are very short-termists. And I don't want to talk to the short-termists. I want to talk to the people that want to talk about what they plan to do in 5 years, 10 years, 15 years. So if someone starts talking to me about what they've just bought because they're hoping to flip it in the next month, that's another alarm bell for me. And I find that in business too. That you bump into these people who are like, oh, January was a tough month. What?
Or the people who always say to their clients that it's going to be a long-term service, you go and see results straight away, and yet when it comes to their marketing, they want their business to double overnight. We get that a lot. People, because breaking through from 6 figures to 7 is a challenge, but the solution doesn't happen overnight.
Yeah,
And how do you write-
seven-figure businesses don't think in weeks and months. They think in years and decades.
Yeah. That's
And
interesting.
it is hard because I've mentioned before, I listened to a lot of Alex Hormozy. He employed a videographer. He said, I want to shoot content with you and see how we get on because I've got a long-term vision. And the videographer said, okay, well, when do you want to look at reach and engagement? And he said, well, we've got to give this at least 12 months before I can see if you've got the style right and if you settled into it. And he's like, well, then what'll happen? He was like, well, we'll only know how you're getting on to start with then. And I'm like, bloody hell. Like, his time horizon was, you've got 12 months to find your feet.
Yeah.
And then he said, and then across the next 5 years, I'd expect to see some results. And it's like, not many people would.
Do you think we were wrong to get rid of that employee after a fortnight then?
Well, yeah, if you turned around and said, well, turns out you don't know how to use a camera.
Well, yeah,
But-
you know.
Yeah.
And so how, so more tips for staying motivated, because obviously we talked a lot about challenges, setbacks. You will get let down.
Yeah.
I mean, does it all come back to our oft-used quotes, where your attention goes, your energy flows? Because I'd say we're both in such a, I'm not saying, certainly not blasé, but we both had to deal with some shit, like a lot of people. And it's so, it doesn't just bounce off me now, but whether it's compartmentalisation or what, I can just put it to one side, focus on what matters. Whereas before, maybe just in pre-pandemic, say 3-4 years ago, all it would take is from, I don't know, some snotty email, and all evening I'll be sat there stewing. Even when I was with the children and Emma, maybe I'd struggle to sleep that night. Whereas now, it's always like, fuck them, I'll deal with it in the morning, or whatever it might be. And does that come down to just, well, I know what I should be giving attention to. I'm clear on my values and purpose. So again, if it doesn't fit within those parameters, just it ain't going to affect me.
Usually would be the honest answer. I think no one's at their best when they're tired or hungry.
That's true.
So I think if I haven't slept well, or everything we've just talked about, everything about staying on purpose, staying focused, becomes way harder if I haven't slept well. It just naturally, the demons start to nibble away at it.
It's interesting that this podcast I was listening to, and it was talking about sleep. And usually when you talk about sleep, someone always pipes up and says, Ronald Reagan only needed 3 hours a night. Margaret Thatcher only needed 3 hours a night. And they achieved quite a lot, whether you agree with their politics or what. And then this sleep expert said, yes, but interestingly, those two people you mentioned, they both struggled heavily later on in their life with dementia. Now, you can't directly say that's why they had it, but it's just interesting to think, oh, okay. And this book I read about sleep is like, fucking hell, that has to be a non-negotiable for me now. I'm all for getting up at 5 a.m, but only if you're prepared to go to bed at 9 o'clock at night.
Yeah.
You need.
Just because of what the physiology of what it does to your brain, you literally
You're so wide.
damaging yourself.
So what's it, on average now, we're bombarded with like 74 gig of information a day, which pre-electricity was the amount of information someone would absorb in their lifetime.
Yeah.
And
So
that's
I.
just mad.
That's just mad.
So this is interesting, right? The dopamine hit someone would get from going to see a live pianist in 1930 is the same as the amount of dopamine you will get in your entire lifetime.
Say that again.
The dopamine hit someone would get from going to see a live pianist in 1930,
Just one right.
like the joy that they would feel from witnessing that is the same as you'll get in your entire lifetime.
Fuck what? Because it's so diluted now.
Because
over all this-
our attention's so spread and we're so bombarded that
Where'd you read that?
I heard it on a podcast. They're
Fuck,
talking
that can't be
about
right.
like how much joy has been sucked out of our lives. So they live very simple lives, but then you go and see something like
So
someone playing
special,
the piano,
yeah.
and it would just be like unreal. Where now we're constantly fed stuff, which is another reason to stay on purpose.
You know, I mean, you know, one of the biggest challenges I have with my girls is those little dopamine, keeping them excited and engaged about stuff, trying to educate them on the difference between happiness and fulfillment. About, you know, so you know, Maddie wanted that keyboard that lit up when she was doing her gaming. It's like some earrings. You know, she got the iPhone 14 now. It's like, okay, you're excited about the iPhone 14. I want to give that to you. Just remember, in a couple of weeks' time, it will just be a phone. It'll be a fucking cool phone, but it'll just be a phone. And it will have nothing. That you won't be any more or less happy then than you are now. And you've got to understand that. I think it's getting through, but it's so hard now with teenagers where, even though deep down they know that what they see on Instagram isn't always a reality, where they're constantly bombarded with, oh, so and so's got a six pack and they're in Dubai again and they're driving a Ferrari. All that kind of shit is going on all the time. And without sounding like a total old fart, I'm glad I grew up in that pre-internet age where simple things that my kids laugh about now, about how I used to meet up with my friend at Virgin Records and we browse the vinyls and maybe buy the new Guns N' Roses EP or whatever. They're just like, I just fucking go on Spotify in my pants in bed and it's
See,
like,
yeah, see, I've really, I'm in your camp here, I've really enjoyed the vinyl revolution because it's like, or Renaissance or whatever we want to call it, because it's made me appreciate music again, whereas music could become very disposable. Just stick a playlist on, sounds alright, that'll do.
oh, oh God. So, coming back from the cinema, Maddie put on a playlist, obviously on Spotify in the car, and half the songs, just press the button, fast forward. And it's like, why aren't we listening to that song? I don't like that one.
Why is it on your playlist then?
Yeah, and you've only had 20 seconds of it. You've put vinyl on, chances are you can't be asked to get up off the sofa to go and change over, so you have to listen to that side of music you're listening to.
But that's
every
also,
song.
also then you understand the story of the album, and so you appreciate music in a different way. And I think that the purpose becomes different, bringing it back to the purpose of Maddie listening to music in the car on the way back is to curtail her boredom for the 35-minute drive home. The purpose of sitting and listening to a vinyl for an hour in your living room is almost the guy in the 1930s going to watch The Pianist, isn't it? It's that like...
That's mad, isn't it?
So, closing on this, what would be useful for our listeners in terms of their own motivation and purpose? Like, what would be your one takeaway for someone who's struggling with getting up in the morning?
For me, so much comes back to attention. So always saying, my coach is always telling us, where your attention goes, your energy flows. If you are giving too much attention too regularly to the wrong things and the wrong people, you will struggle with motivation. You will struggle with energy. You'll struggle with a lot in your life.
Yeah.
Because you'll sit back at the end of the day and think, have I done what I need to do? No. Have I spent time with the people I want to spend time with? No. And that's how you go to bed.
Yeah.
And even if you have a good night's sleep, chances are you'll wake up thinking, oh. And sort of how you wake up and how you go to bed are obviously so linked. But like I say, if you're pissed and only getting 4 hours sleep a night, well, of course you're going to struggle with motivation. This isn't a fucking temperance rant, but you've got to wake up in a good space. But I think, yeah, knowing where you want to get to, knowing what you need to do, just makes everything clearer, because saying yes, saying no to the right things, the wrong things, that's going to make up such a massive part of your progress. And because we talk all, about marketing, about listen to this podcast and watch that YouTube video, knowledge is just 20% of your struggle, your challenge, your growth. The other 80% is the fucking implementation. So this is what you've got to do to stay on purpose. Are you with me or not? And not a maybe.
Sacrifice.
Yeah, fuck it. Yeah, like you say, some of the friends we don't see anymore, that's a sacrifice we have to make.
There's very
to
few
do what we
people.
want.
There's very few people in my life now who I care what they think, and that's taken a long time to get out.
That's a whole podcast, isn't it?
Yeah, the fear of what others might say, the fear of what people will say, the snipes.
Even like the people I respect in our world, like high up in our world, I don't give a shit what they think, because they're not doing what I'm trying to do. And that's where purpose gets really interesting. When you really know your purpose, you no longer care what other people think.
Yeah, that's difficult when it's friends, family, but that's probably why you end up with close friends and maybe see less of certain members of your family.
I just don't share it with my family anymore. What are you up to? I don't go home and ring my mum and sort of say, oh yeah, I'm trying to build the most successful marketing agency in the world. I'm probably going to take over Shrewsbury Town and going to help my wife buy her own zoo. She'd be like, right, we're having you committed. So,
life isn't supposed to be easy, Joel.
so
It's supposed to be hard and shit.
people who are hungry and want to crack on with their purpose, what should they do?
Yeah, book a one-to-one session with us here at Codebreak HQ or over Zoom if you want. Simply apply via codebreak.co.uk.
You've been listening to the Stay Hungry podcast. Don't forget to subscribe, share, leave us a review. I'll love you forever. Visit andyandjoel.com if you want to know more about our coaching. We'd love to hear from you. Take care, everyone.